Hello, 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 and good day, everyone! How's my adventurers doing? Because today in the shop we have another Magic the Gathering deck idea. This is another one that I've built personally. This one is going to be a little bit more dumbed down than others because I haven't put as much money into it. I kind of built this one literally with cards I had lying around. So some cards are going to be kind of like, huh, and other cards are going to be like, there's better. And trust me, there is. I'm pretty sure this deck is going to have improvements that are capable of. And maybe when I get some disposable income and I get back into Magic and stuff like that a little bit more than usual, I will put some money aside and I will improve this deck. Because I do like this deck. This is my good boy fetch deck. So without further ado, I think we should try to jump right into the good boy fetch deck and tell you exactly what it is and what it's about. Because I'll tell you right now, this is one of those decks where it's like, I don't have very many good ideas, but I'm pretty sure everybody else does, and I think I'm going to use them. So alright, let's get into it. Let's make big me disappear, little me appear, and let's bring up Good Boy Fetch. Good Boy Fetch is based on Haldan Avid Accanist, and let's face it, it's really about Pako Arcane Retriever. Pako Arcane Retriever is a red and a green, a 3/3 that's partner with Haldan of Avid Accanist. He has haste, he is an elemental hound, he is a good boy. Whenever Pako Arcane Retriever attacks, exile the top card of each player's library and put a fetch counter on each of them. Put a +1/+1 counter on Pako for each non-creature card exiled this way. So, right off the bat, this deck's going to be really great as long as your opponents are not playing creature-heavy decks. If your opponents are playing all creature-heavy decks, then you kind of, you drew the short end of the stick and you kind of screwed yourself over and you're relying 100% on yourself, maybe one other person, because what's the chances 3 people choose creature-heavy decks at the same time, right? And that's based on the idea that you guys are just grabbing your decks and playing. If you are planning ahead of time or something like that, which I don't recommend. I really don't recommend that you guys plan ahead of time what decks to play. I feel like everyone should just sit down, grab a deck, and surprise everybody at the table with what they got, because that makes it the most entertaining and the most fun. And also the most fair that it could possibly be, because if you sit down and go, well, they're playing a bunch of creature-heavy decks, so I'm not going to play my Pako deck, that's just sucky, you know what I mean? Because what's the chances that you're going to be up against your ideal crowd the entire time, especially if you play at a game store and you don't know what you're going to be facing because maybe they don't want to tell you. I personally am one of those people. When I sit down at the table and people ask me what I'm playing, I wait until they choose what they're playing and then I tell them what I'm playing. So, without further ado, let's get into Haldan as well. Haldan is also a commander of this deck. He is no small part either. Haldan Avid Accanist is for 2 and a blue. He is a 1/4 human wizard. Partners with Pako Arcane Retriever. Whenever you may play non-creature cards from exile with fetch counters on them. If you exiled them, and you may excuse me. And you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. So right off the bat, Pako swings, exiles top card of everyone's decks, possibly gets bigger, most likely gets bigger because of you, because your deck's going to be ideal for him. So he's at least going to get a little bigger, most likely. Then there's going to be the fact that you can then take those spells, non-creature spells sadly, and use them against your opponents. Which is going to be great, because if someone brought a lot of removal, guess what? You have a lot of removal. Someone brought a bunch of board wipes, you've got some board wipes that you can cast every once in a while, so long as you can keep getting Haldan out. Or find a way to protect Haldan to keep board wipes. Maybe people got a bunch of spells to protect themselves and to protect their board. Well, guess what? Now you got a bunch of spells to protect yourself and to protect your board. You have all the cool stuff now. You have it all of it. It's great. So let's dive right into the artifacts. We have a quarter shield. A quarter shield I put in here because Pako doesn't start off as the biggest boy. He is a 5 mana 5-drop, so he's coming out turn probably 4. If I'm lucky, 3. Doubt it. In fact, with my mana curve, he's not coming out 3. He's definitely coming out 4. At the very earliest, he's coming out turn 4. And so, with the quarter shield, since he's not the biggest boy, he's just a 3/3. A quarter shield gives +0/+3 and gives vigilance to the equipped creature. So this is a way for me to make his butt bigger so that way he survives the swing, and then also the fact that he didn't tap the swing so that way I can keep him as a blocker because he's got a big butt now. So this is a great card. I really like this addition to it. We also have Arcane Signet for the mana. We have Commander Sphere for the mana, occasionally draw. We have a Gruul Locket for the mana. We have an Izzet Locket for the mana. We have a Simic Locket for the mana. We have Loxodon Warhammer as a win con. Loxodon Warhammer gives +3/+0 and gives trample and lifelink. Pako, who has hopefully been growing this entire game, can now trample over anything that dares block it, and you're gaining your life back, so you're coming. This can bring you back into the game, and it can also make you a major party for winning as well. Then we have Soul Ring for the mana, and then we have Winged Boots to give flying, so that way Pako can fly over all the blockers and swing for the wins. It also gives Ward 4, so that way, you know, it's harder to take out Pako. 4 creatures. We don't have many. We do have quite a few, actually, but we don't have many in the grand scheme of things. With 18 instances and 11 sorceries, 17 creatures is not that much. But we do have 17 creatures, and there's a reason why we have a decent amount of creatures is because we can't leave ourselves completely open with Pako. We can't completely dive in 100% nothing but instances and sorceries. I don't think that deck's going to work. And so I added a couple of unique creatures such as Inara Wolvid Familiar, which makes it so that way on my turn, my commanders I control are indestructible, meaning that I can, if I want to, board wipe at the very least once with Inara out, because Inara's sadly going to die. But it's another good boy. And Inara's going to keep Pako alive, so Pako can keep swinging in for the fences without having to worry about dying. It's a really great addition. We have the Dual Caster Mage, which is Flash, and when he enters the battlefield, you may copy instants or sorcery spells and choose new targets for the copy. This is a great addition because if someone did have an amazing instant or sorcery that I exiled with Pako, I can now get 2 out of it. And then we have Atali Primal Storm, another card to make your opponents think about whether or not Pako is the real problem. In reality, Pako is pretty much the real problem because Pako is the one that's going to be able to keep coming back. But Atali, whenever Atali attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. You may then cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. He's technically better than Pako because he gets those cards for free. So people are going to panic and try to remove Atali. But by removing Atali, they leave Pako in play to keep getting bigger and harder to remove. Then we have Farhaven Elf, which enters the battlefield and searches up a land and enters the battlefield. This is a great thing for us. We're going to hunt for a lot of lands, specifically with our sorceries. Goblin Electromancer to make instants and sorceries that we cast 1 less to cast, which is a huge deal for us because the main things that we're going to be casting are instants and sorceries off of other people's decks. Then we have Hanowar Lancer. Hanowar Lancer is in here to give Pako first strike because Hanowar Lancer has Soulbound, which means when he enters the battlefield, he binds with somebody, and as long as he is paired with another creature, both creatures have first strike. Hanowar probably isn't going to swing that much because he's just a measly little 2/2, but we just made Pako, who's hopefully huge, really big and capable of killing things before they even touch him, which allows him to deal with Death Touch. Then we have Kaza Royal Chaser, which is Flying Haste, and tap when the next instant or sorcery you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is the number of wizards you control as this ability resolves. This means that 1 spell a turn is at least going to get 1 mana less in cost, or 2 if Haldan is also in play, because Haldan is also a wizard. Then we have Keeper of Secrets. Keeper of Secrets is no slouch in this deck. Keeper of Secrets is a first strike haste 6/4 creature. That's not the impressive part. The impressive part of Keeper of Secrets is that whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Keeper of Secrets deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. This means that all those spells that we're sniping and taking out of people's decks are now going to start hurting them as well. So it's adding injury to insult. Essentially, we're insulting them by taking their cards, and then we're hurting them because we took their cards, and it's great. I love this card in this deck. Then we have Murmuring Mystic. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue bird creature, illusion creature with flying. This is a great way for us to get blockers, because we don't have a lot of creatures in this deck, comparatively. But at the same time, it's also a great way for us to get flyers to fly overhead for late game in case we need to do that last bit of damage. And it's just a great card. The fact that it does it after every instant and sorcery. We got a lot of instants and sorceries in our deck as well, 18 and 11. But at the same time, we're going to be stealing everybody else's instants and sorceries. So this is a great card. Naid of the Hidden Coves. As long as it's not your turn, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Meaning, all the spells that we cast for instant speed on everybody else's turn, which will hopefully happen once we get a bunch of mana and stuff like that, we'll be casting for cheap. Then we have Rampaging Baloffs. Trample, 6/6. Really great creature, but at the same time, landfall. Whenever a land you control enters the battlefield, create a 4/4 green beast creature token. Now you're probably wondering, why do I have a landfall creature in this deck? Well, because we're guaranteed to get a land drop pretty much every turn. What do I mean by we're guaranteed to get a land drop? Is because Haldan says play cards, not cast, play cards. Meaning that those lands that we're exiling off of people's decks, we can start taking those, meaning that we're guaranteed a land drop every single turn, meaning the longer the game goes, the more mana we get. And then we also have some spells that are going to search us up our own extra additional lands, and then we also have spells that give us additional land drops. Not a whole lot, and it's not necessarily a landfall deck. This easily could be a landfall deck. I would love to build a Pako landfall deck because I think it would do really, really well. But also, I think it's just a great addition. Then we have Reclamation Sage, which is just a way to get rid of an enchantment or artifact. Spearbreaker Behemoth, which is a 5/5 indestructible creature for 7, which is really nice, really powerful. But the really important thing is that for 1 mana, target creature with power 5 or greater gains indestructible until end of turn, meaning that we can defend Pako more with this creature. Then we have Tolerant Sky Summoner, which is just like Murmuring Mystic, except when we cast instants and sorceries, we get 2/2 blue drakes, which are more damage on board, and also great blockers. Then we have Wave Break Hippocampus, which is whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card. We have the power to cast instants and sorceries whenever we want, pretty much, and so, well, not sorceries, but instances whenever we want, because we're going to have a bunch of them, hopefully. So this is a great card for us to get some more draw power off our deck, to get more options available to us. And then Wolfgar of Icewind Dale, a huge commander in his own right. He is a big deal because he comes with melee, and that if a creature you control attacking would cause a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time, meaning Pako's going to exile twice as many cards. Twice as many cards gets twice as big, gives us twice as many options every single turn to keep casting. He is a huge deal in this deck, and I love him. And then finally, Young Pyromancer. He's not as good as Murmuring Mystic and Talran. He makes 1/1 red elemental creature tokens every single time you cast an instant or sorcery. They do not fly. That's the reason why they're not as great, but they are still good blockers. Then enchantments. We only have a handful of enchantments. We have a really, really important enchantment right off the bat, and that is Arcane Bombardment. Let's make this one bigger. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard. Then copy each card exiled with Arcane Bombardment. You may cast any number of the copies without paying their mana cost. This is a huge deal in our deck. Now, this isn't going to be stealing cards from everybody else, but every time we cast someone else's theft, we can essentially get a chance to cast one of our own spells that are in our own graveyard for free, because you're going to cast a spell. Whether it's an opponent's spell or your own spell, doesn't matter. You cast it, you exile another one from your graveyard. Hopefully you've been casting a bunch of your own spells as well, that you have some in your graveyard to go for, and boom, you are going to start machine gunning out spells. You're going to start shooting out spell after spell after spell after spell after spell after spell after spell. And since it's casting, it pairs really well with Talran, Murmuring Mystic, and Young Pyromancer, which is all about casting spells to make tokens. Essentially, Arcane Bombardment is going to make you machine gun out not only all these extra spells and all these extra effects, but you're also going to machine gun out an army of tokens at your disposal. It is a great addition to the deck. I really love it, and it works really well. Druid class. Druid class, right off the bat, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, gain a life. A little bit of life gain, doesn't hurt every deck. But what it's really in here for is you may play, as for its level 2 for 2 and a green, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. that is a huge deal. We get the additional land drops. I know there's probably better cards out there to get additional land drops, especially for 5 mana, because 2 to place it, 3 to level it up. But this was what I had at my disposal to put into this deck, because most of my best additional land drops and landfall cards are all in AC, as you guys probably saw. If you haven't saw it, it is a previous deck. I do have a link at the end of this video that's going to go to the list of my previous decks. And in that list of previous decks is my favorite commander deck of all time, which is AC Tyrant of the Gyre Strait. He's pretty much taken up all of my additional land drop cards, so that's the reason why all I have left is Druid class. Now, Druid class also has when this class becomes level 3, target land you control becomes a creature with haste, and this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. It's still a land. Still a good ability, because for 5 mana, I could possibly get a creature, a huge creature, because I haven't been missing a land drop. I most likely have a land every single turn, possibly more. I can get a massive creature out after a board wipe, and it would be amazing to be able to swing in with this creature after a board wipe, and it'd be really powerful, really great. Then we have Mystic Remora for a little bit of extra draw power at any point in time in the game, most likely during the early stages of the game, but even during the late stages I have more mana to spend on it. If I don't have mana to spend on spells, maybe there's no good spells, I could be drawing to try and find more spells in my own deck. Then we have Primal Empathy. It has 2 effects, but chance has it we're only going to be using 1. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card if you control a creature with the greatest power. Hopefully, Pako has been growing insanely powerful by the time you get the spell out, or if the spell's already been out, he's grown to be really big, and he's hopefully the biggest thing on the field, meaning you're going to be drawing an additional card. But in case he isn't the biggest thing on the field, you can put a +1/+1 counter on him or another creature until you have the biggest thing on the field. Then we have Shielding Plaques. Shielding Plaques is enchant creature. Shielding Plaques enters the battlefield, draw a card. Enchanted creature can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. A great defense for Pako to keep him around. Then we have Weathered Treaty, which is a saga. Weathered Treaty at level 1, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tapped and shuffle. Really good. We like to search for extra additional lands. Level 2, make a body. We're just going to make a 1/1 Saproling that can defend us. And then at level 3, target creature you control gets +X/+X and gains trample until end of turn, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. This is a really big deal actually to us, because not only are we going to get additional land and get a blocker, but we're going to get this huge bump that will most likely be possibly 5/5 and trample. We're not only going to give Pako trample, which is a huge deal, allowing him to swing for lethal on somebody, because chance has it he's grown immensely, but at the same time you can give him at most a +5/+5, and you're probably thinking, how, this is only a 3-color deck. Because I'm stealing lands from my opponents. If my opponents are at least playing a black and a white deck, then that means I've got black and white mana that I most likely stole from people. And that should be on your priority, to make sure that you've played an additional, at least 1 black land and 1 white land in case you get this card. And then finally we have Wilderness Reclamation. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. Massive deal in this deck, because you have an arsenal of instances in your own deck that are going to get exiled, but also instances in everyone else's decks that are going to get exiled. And so being able to cast as many spells as humanly possible on every single turn, so that way you can get the most out of your token makers, and also the most out of the game in general. Removing whatever needs to be removed, adding what needs to be added, drawing what needs to be drawn. You essentially get a bunch of effects, a bunch of card spells and abilities that you can use from Wilderness Reclamation. Next is instances. We have a bunch, starting with Artifact Mutation. Destroy target artifact. It cannot be regenerated. Create X 1/1 green Saproling creature tokens, where X is that artifact's mana value. This is a way for us to destroy an artifact that's giving us problems and get some blockers on the field as well. Then we have Beast Within. To pop something, give them a creature. It's worth the risk if the item was that bad. Chaos Warp, another one with it's worth the risk. Get rid of something. Chance has it gives them something even worse than that, but you got rid of the one thing that was screwing up your plan. Double Major. Copy target creature spell you control, except it isn't legendary if the spell is legendary. Now this is different. This is not a copy creature, it's a copy spell, so it has to be on the stack to my knowledge. I could be wrong. Feel free to let me know in the comments, but to my knowledge, It has to be on the stack because that's when it's a spell. Otherwise, when it's in the field, it's just a creature. It's no longer a spell. So this is important. Chance has it, people have probably popped Pako a couple of times. Hopefully double major is in your hand as an additional tax, so to speak. If you have all the mana because you haven't been missing land drops, hopefully because of Haldan, you hopefully have enough mana to put Pako back into play and to make a second Pako. Because they can choose from each other's piles. It's still one pile because Haldan just says as long as you exiled it and it has a fetch counter on it, you can play it. So it doesn't matter which Pako does it as long as a Pako exiles stuff. Double Pako, double goodness. Then we have Fog. Fog is a great card. It's not ideal card, but it's a great card to keep us alive because we don't have a lot of creatures. We just have Pako for the most part, and we're hopefully making tokens, but we possibly are not making tokens, and so we have a way to protect ourselves in case someone swings at us for lethal. Then we have Increasing Vengeance. Copy an instant or sorcery spell you control. If this spell was cast from the graveyard, not a high chance. It's just a copy spell, but we could possibly flash back this spell and copy this spell twice. It's a possibility, but it's most likely we're casting this from exile. Mana Leak. I know what you're going to say. There's better counterspells. And trust me, I know there's better counterspells. But these are the counterspells that I had at my disposal to put in this deck, and so I put in Mana Leak. As long as they don't have 3 more mana, it's gone. I have to plan this properly. Mystic Dispute. Another one that's like Mana Leak. 3 more mana. As long as they don't have 3 mana, it's gone. Negate. That's a better counterspell, but it only targets non-creatures. I want to be able to counter some creatures because I don't have a lot in here. Pause for Reflection. Another prevent combat damage. Again, I don't have a lot of creatures, so I'm afraid of people that do have them. This is a great way for me to prevent that damage. River Beret. Another copy spell, so that way we can get the most out of the instants and sorceries that we have at our disposal. Simic Charm. I love these spells. These spells that come with multiple choices, they are amazing. I can either make Pako bigger by giving him +3/+3, or someone else bigger, or I can give all my permanents hexproof and protect Pako from possible removal, or I can return target creature to its owner's hand, such as Pako or Haldan, to save them from another type of removal like a board wipe or something. Then we have Snakeskin Veil, which also gives a +1/+1 counter and makes something have hexproof, which means we can make Pako bigger and protect him at the same time. Starstorm is a 2 red and an X to deal X damage to each creature. This is a great way for me to board wipe and hopefully keep Pako alive, because Pako will hopefully be massive that I can just do the small numbers that like get rid of all the tokens that somebody has or something like that, and then boom, come back out with a Pako swinging for their face. Then we have Supreme Will, which is another counter spell that needs them to have 3 mana to stop it. It's not great, it's not ideal, but it does work really well with Arcane Bombardment, because Supreme Will later on, if it gets exiled and we get to cast it every turn, it's not a dead counter spell in our Arcane Bombardment list that we're constantly having the option to cast, but we're not going to cast because it's a counter spell. But it does have the ability to look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest in the bottom of your library in random order, which means you can start stacking your deck, so to speak, if this gets into your Arcane Bombardment. Then we have Teach by Example, which is another copy spell for instants and sorceries. Then we have Thwart the Enemy, which is another fog effect. And finally, we have Turn Aside, which is another counterspell that only counters spells that targets a permanent you control, which means it's specifically there to protect Pako. Last but not least, we have sorceries. Well, not last. We have lands to go through, which will be quick. But we have sorceries. We have Chain Reaction, a board wipe in our colors, which allows us to get rid of problems, possibly killing Pako because we can't control the damage on this one. Cultivate to search us up some lands. Double Cast to copy another instant or sorcery. Epic Experiment. Exile the top X cards of your library. You may cast instants and sorcery spells with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. Then put all cards exiled this way that weren't cast into your graveyard. Explore. Normally, I don't run Explore. It's one of the first cards I take out of every single goddamn pre-con because I think Explore is a stupid card. You may play an additional land this turn, draw a card. Early game, in your opening hand, could possibly be great. 2 mana, get a land out 1 turn before you're normally supposed to get it. Chance has it you were going to play it next turn and you don't have more land anyways, so it does really nothing because you spent 2 mana. Maybe you get 1 more mana, 1 mana thing out on the turn that you played the 2 mana thing. So it's not, in my opinion, it's not great. Late game, chance has it you don't have a land in your hand because you're playing lands as you get them as you go. So you don't have lands unless you're drawing a bunch of cards at once. Yeah, the play land has to come before the draw card, so you can't draw and then play a land, which would make it way better. But yeah, I don't like Explore. In here though, I'm doing it. Why? Because chance has it, there is going to be a lot of land available to me. I'm exiling 4 cards a turn, maybe 8 if I got the Clone of Pako out, but 4 cards a turn at the very least with Pako Arcane Retriever, that I could possibly be getting 2, 3 lands, 4 lands at a time every single time I exile. Hopefully not, because that would really be a waste. And also it would prove that everybody here has way too many lands in their decks. Then we have Farseek, search for everything but a forest, put it into play. Rampant Growth, search for more land, put it into play. Rickshar's Expertise, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Pako will hopefully allow us to draw a lot of cards off of this. Then cast a spell with mana value 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost, allowing me to get a free spell off the bat. Then we have Savage Twister, which is just like our other board wipe. Savage Twister deals X damage to each creature, but we control X, meaning that we can keep Pako alive and get rid of everything that is a problem for Pako. Then we have Urban Evolution, which is to draw 3 cards, play an additional land this turn. Another card that I normally don't like. This one's usually better than Explore because the draw happens before you play additional land, and you're drawing multiple cards, meaning your chance of getting a land is much higher. But it's even better in this one because we're drawing cards and then we're going to get lands no matter what, because we've been exiling lands with Pako most likely. And finally, last but not least, I had an extra Vandal Blast lying around, which is a great card. Destroy target artifact you don't control, or overload it, changing target to each, and destroying each artifact you don't control, meaning that you can deal with an artifact deck or just artifacts in general that are giving you some problems. And then last but not least, we have lands. We have Ash Baron, we have it for the basic land cycling, so we can find a particular color of mana that we're looking for. Cinderglade for green and red, Command Tower for all the colors, Evolving Wilds to find that particular color that we're looking for, 5 forests. Gruul Turf for green and red together. Guildless Commons for double mana because we want as much mana as we can get because we have X spells and we have big spells, and possibly there's big instants and sorceries that our opponents have that we want to get out as well. 5 islands, an Izzet Boilworks for a red and a blue together. A Karn's Bastion to proliferate. Chance has it with Pako, we're going to be growing him bigger and bigger. If we have extra mana that we don't know what we're dealing with because we're getting a land every single turn, we can at least proliferate. Kazanda Refuge, gain a life and get red and green. 5 mountains, Mirri Landscape, again to search for that particular color that we're looking for. Reliquary Tower for the no maximum hand size, because we may not have a crap ton of cards that said draw additional card. We had a few. Chance has it though, the instances and sorceries that we're stealing from everybody else is going to be all of their draw power. They're going to have a lot of draw power that we can steal from, and so Reliquary Tower is going to get us their draw power, and that's how it's going to go there. Then we have Rugged Highlands to gain a life and to get red or green mana. Shivan Reef to pay a life for blue or red mana. Sulphur Falls, blue or red mana. Temple of Epiphany, scry in blue and red mana. Temple of the False Gods. Now I know this is not a great land. I don't have a lot to choose from, but it is more mana. This allows me to pay for the tax on Pako if Pako keeps on getting killed off easily. It's not great for the early game. I understand that. Hopefully you don't get it early game. I mean, it is 1 out of 99. The chances of you getting it early game are not that high. I know for some players are going to be like, I always get it, and that's probably true, and that's why you don't run it, and that's understandable. But I'm going to. Terramorphic Expanse to get that mana that you specifically need. Thornwood Falls to gain a life and get green or blue mana. Vivid Creek to gain blue in whatever color you need for a couple turns. Vivid Grove for green mana and also to get any color you need for a couple turns. And finally, Yavimaya Coast to get a green or a blue for 1 damage. And that is our land base. We have 36 lands. I ran extra lands in here because I got extra land drop stuff. And I wanted to make sure that if I couldn't play the other people's lands, I could at least play additional ones of my own. And that is Good Boy Fetch. That is Good Boy Fetch. Good Boy Fetch. This is Haldan and Pako doing their thing, exiling cards as many times as they can every single turn. Other cards that would make this deck better: additional combat phases, additional combat triggers if you can find more cards to do that. More better instants and sorceries, better creatures that benefit from instants and sorceries, maybe even some better enchantments and better artifacts that benefit from instants and sorceries, more protection spells or protection artifacts for Pako to keep him alive. I understand that there's plenty of stuff out there that could do really, really well. If you have any cool ideas or anything that you think should definitely go in there, go ahead, let me know in the comment section. Come see me in a stream, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, I hope that you guys enjoyed this little video on Good Boy Fetch. I hope you're looking forward to the next one. As you've probably noticed, if you haven't by now, I don't do MTG decks until there is a fourth Wednesday in the week. I save it specifically for those months. On months where there's a fourth Wednesday, that's when I do the MTG deck ideas. And so I have reasons why I don't do the first Wednesday of every month. I hope you guys understand that, why there's no videos on those months. Because there might be something in the future or not, but we'll see where it comes from. There used to be something that used to be posted on those Wednesdays. I stopped posting those because I realized that I'm too early stage of a channel to get the best benefit out of what I was doing. So yeah, this is usually in the fourth Wednesday of a month, so expect those then. Just in case you guys were wondering why it is he doesn't do them all the time, or why he doesn't do one a month, now you understand why, and now you understand when I do it, so that way you can keep an eye out for them. Otherwise, I hope you guys have been enjoying the videos. I hope you guys are looking forward to the next one, and I hope you guys have a safe adventure.